we doesn't mean we're not pushing forward just because we feel for the families and we feel for the community and the victims.
Oh my god, what's wrong with these cops? You don't have to be a rocket scientist to jump to conclusions and arrest the wrong people. I mean, jeez. All jokes aside, arresting wrong people in an effort to find the culprit is exactly the type of recipe that might see a killer walk free. Now that an arrest has been made, we have some serious sleuthing to do. Technically, you all knew about the arrest before me, even though I'm in the future, so how does that work? Anyway, I have been watching this case unfold, and even having a little giggle at all the super sleuths chasing their tails around in circles. Just in case you are new to the true crime community, or maybe you've just been living under a rock for the past month, we'll just quickly recap what this series of videos is about.
On the evening of November 12th, Kaylee Gonsalves and Madison Morgan were at a local bar and were later at a food truck in downtown Moscow. They arrived home at approximately 1:45 a.m. on the morning of November 13th. Ethan Chapin and Xana Kernodle were at the Sigma Chi house before also arriving home at approximately 1:45 a.m. Two surviving roommates were also out in the community, and they returned home at approximately 1 a.m. and did not wake up until later that morning. On the morning of November 13th, at 11:58 a.m., a 911 call was placed to the Whitcomb Dispatch Center reporting an unconscious person. The call originated from inside the residence and was made from the phone of one of the surviving roommates. Moscow Police Department officers responded and located 4 victims, 2 on the 2nd floor and 2 on the 3rd floor. The Latah County coroners conducted autopsies, and detectives have been provided with the results of those autopsies. We know that the autopsies confirmed the identity of the 4 victims, determined the cause and manner of death as a homicide by stabbing, and determined that it was likely all 4 victims were asleep during the attack. Some of the victims had defensive wounds, and each victim was stabbed multiple times. There was no sign of sexual assault.
For me personally, there were 2 key pieces of information that came out during the press conference. So let's tune into those segments and I will pull it apart for you.
And let me preface, there's a pending case now in court, and I and my office and the investigators have to live with the restrictions that our Supreme Court places on pretrial publicity. That said, I promise you we will share with you through the court process or otherwise whatever we are allowed to. I just appreciate your patience on that.
I find it difficult to believe that so many reporters who cover these cases day in and day out do not understand that Idaho does have strict laws about pre-trial publicity. The fact that newcomers to the true crime community might not know this is understandable. However, reporters who cover these cases constantly, they should know this information, as should the lawyers who make commentary on such cases.
The factual basis for the charges are summarized in what's called a probable cause affidavit that is on file with the court. According to the rules of the Idaho Supreme Court, that is sealed until Mr. Kohlberger is physically back in Latah County and has been served with the Idaho arrest warrant. At that time, we expect that that affidavit will be available to you so you can share the true facts with all of your readers and your watchers and your listeners and all the people who are interested and really need to know what's going on. So please have patience with us on that. We hope to get that to you as soon as we can.
And so that's the first key piece of information that I got from the presser. Aside of the fact that the authorities don't want a suspect to go on the run because they'd heard through the news that there was an arrest about to be made, There's also the Idaho Supreme Court rules, and if those rules are broken, then the defendant will be able to get an appeal and walk off scot-free, potentially. So that's the first point that I'd like to make. The public's right to know information versus obtaining justice are carefully weighed in the upper courts, and this is the case in most Western countries, including Australia. So, when do we expect to find out factual information about this case? And that information was also provided.
As far as Mr. Kohlberger, I can share with you that he is a graduate student at Washington State University and has an apartment residence over in Pullman. He has had an initial appearance in front of a judge in Pennsylvania. He is being held without bond, and the warrant from our magistrate judge here also provides for no bond. We understand that he's scheduled to be back in court in Pennsylvania next Tuesday afternoon, and that a public defender has been appointed for him there. The process at this point is, since he was arrested in another state, he has the opportunity to either waive extradition and return voluntarily to the state of Idaho, or if he prefers not to waive extradition, then we will initiate extradition proceedings through our governor's office. If we do that, it can take a while for him to get here. So again, I'm asking for your patience and understand that's just the way the system works.
And if you don't like the way our systems work, then you can just as easily move to another country where they're likely to cap you in the butt before you even get a chance at facing a jury. Anyway, the second key piece of information that I obtained through listening to the presser pertains to the white Hyundai Elantra.
Hey Chief, have you guys found the murder weapon or the Hyundai Elantra?
So we are still looking for all pieces of evidence, but we are still looking for the weapon. And I will say that we have found an Elantra.
Chief Guy Tannenbaum from Nonstop Local KHQ in Spokane. More about the Elantra. We saw reports that you mentioned that you recovered an Elantra, but can you specify where that was found? And we know that that was one of the biggest pieces of information you were asking from the public to tip. Were you able to provide an information on whether those tips led to this seizure of an Elantra?
That's still part of the investigation that will come out in the future.
Notably, the chief hasn't said who owned the Elantra, only that they found one. There's no indication whether it belonged to the suspect or not, so far. It was simply a vehicle of interest that was getting around at the time that the murders occurred. So I'm not going to be surprised if that is the case. However, if the vehicle does belong to the suspect, it'll most likely contain a treasure trove of evidence, since I think it's highly unlikely that with the amount of blood and gore and injuries sustained by the victims, that this person got into the car and left no trace of the crime whatsoever inside their car. And that's the two main takeaways that I got from the press event. One, the authorities won't be releasing any info, but it'll be available through the court website if, and only if, the judge sees fit to unseal it. Two, there is no evidence that has been released to the public, not even about the Elantra. So anything said about the case is still pure speculation and not based on any info provided by authorities. Now, moving right along, I do feel compelled to mention this next topic, even though I'm fairly certain I'm preaching to the converted as far as my own audience is concerned. I still feel compelled to mention it.
Shannon, let me ask you one more question. I've only got about 20 seconds left, but I do want to ask you this because this is happening more and more with crime victims. It happened to the Sandy Hook families. It happened to Shanann Watts' family. More and more, the cyber community, who can be so cruel, harass crime victims. Has this been happening to the Gonzalez family too?
Yes, the Gonzalez family they will receive random emails or text messages or things along those lines that are just, completely inappropriate. They're taunting or whatever it might be. And in today's world, it's amazing that people are out there that do these things to victims of crimes. And it's my understanding that, the Moscow Police Department, it stated that if those people cross the line in regards to harassment, that they'll be prosecuting those individuals. So well, hopefully they'll stick behind that if that ever comes up and becomes an issue with any of the victims' families. So
I'm so sorry to hear that, Shannon. Please pass on, our regrets to the family that they're having to go through that. That's being doubly victimized, and it's just unconscionable. Thank you for being here. I appreciate this.
If this is describing you, then shame on you. I don't know what headspace you have to be in to inflict this type of cruelty on others, but I imagine you need to see a shrink. Normal people don't behave this way. Hell, even non-normal people aren't so cruel. So trust me, you need to see a shrink. Moving on.
A pit in your stomach. That's how Moscow Police Chief James Fry describes the feeling of getting a call from his captain telling him that 4 students were just killed from a stabbing in a house off King Road near campus.
Many of us have kids. Many of us have kids that are same age. It is emotional, We'll continue to do our jobs, and we'll continue to push until we get all the answers, because we owe it to them.
Fry said he's worked with other agencies before and dealt with some violent murders in his time with the police department, but it was many years ago. Times have changed.
What exactly is she subtly suggesting here? That his whole department are boomers? That the FBI doesn't have the technical expertise to carry out this investigation? Like the FBI, who was recently outed for spying on everyone via Twitter and other social media, don't have a modern skill set to deal with social media? Listen, grasshopper.
What's kind of like the mentality that you guys are sticking with right now? Because I know that it's very difficult. Like, what's keeping you going?
We have 4 lost lives, and we have 4 families and extended families and a community that's torn apart. And we need to bring some closure to that, and we need to do everything we can. That's what drives investigators. We want to solve this. We want to get the answers.
The case has spiked national news and public interest, causing people to speculate about information that was never confirmed by police.
It's a pretty dynamic case when you look at how big it's gotten with national media. And anytime you're dealing with national media, which we've never really experienced before, it brings a whole new element.
People want more answers, but police can't give those just yet.
We have to protect the integrity of that case, and we've taken some ridicule for that. But in the end, when we prosecute this case, it'll be worth it, and we're going to hold the integrity of that case all the way through.
Along with speculation comes accusations of the murders becoming a cold case. Are you confident that you're going to solve this, or can you not speak to that? I mean, are you feeling, hopeful at least?
I'm very confident that we're going to solve this. We've heard the rumors, this case has gone cold. This case has not gone cold. We are receiving tips continually. We've had people say that we don't have the right people in place. I'm telling you, we have the right people in place. We have the right resources. We have the right individuals, and we have a lot of experience that is overseeing this case to make sure that we get this right.
I certainly understand journalists and even YouTubers sympathising with the family who wants this case solved pronto. Personally, I think solving it within a month was fantabulous work. I mean, let's face it, this isn't a drive-through service. Things take time. From the inspection of the crime scene, to the autopsy results, to the DNA lab results, and so on. It all takes time. And you certainly can't move on from one set of results before you've got those results, because it's those very results that will give you the next clue to the next part of the puzzle. Indeed, some of these cases take many, many years to put the puzzle pieces together. Take, for example, the Delphi murders case, which happened in 2017, and only just in the last few months has somebody been arrested for it. And that has nothing to do with the motivation of the police, and everything to do with having the actual physical evidence to be able to charge the person with that crime.
We've received a lot more tips here recently, and we're continuing to investigate those and follow up on those. We've received over 19,650 tips. Email-wise, 9,025 of those have come in. Phone-wise, 4,575, and we've received over 6,050 digital tips.
Just as a matter of curiosity, how much manpower do you think it takes to filter through 19,000 tips in a matter of a few weeks? I'm no expert or anything, but something tells me that those numbers suggest a heck of a lot of people trying to insert themselves into an investigation they have no business inserting themselves into. It just seems crazy to me that people will complain about how long an investigation takes while simultaneously wasting the time of the investigators by inserting themselves into an investigation for no other reason than to see their own name appear in the news. Anyway, back to complaining about the media, who are often responsible for fueling such behaviour.
We've been following the news conference since it started. Dana Griffin is inside that room where the news conference occurred. Dana, because of the state law in Idaho, police could not tell us a lot about the evidence up until that suspect is extradited back to Idaho. He's still in Pennsylvania right now. But according to sources who have spoken to NBC News, we know one of the key pieces of evidence here, which police were asking about, was that white Hyundai Elantra. And we know, according to our sources, that a Hyundai Elantra was pulled from Koberger's house earlier today.
Which sources exactly? Because I'm pretty sure we just listened to the same press conference that you guys listened to and distinctly heard the police chief and the prosecutor say that they weren't releasing that information.
That's right, Tom, and even police have confirmed that that white Hyundai Elantra has been found. Back on December 7th, that was that key public piece of information, the real big clue that has been released since November that confirmed that was, the key piece of evidence that they were looking for, and they have found that. They found that this morning when they arrested 28-year-old Kohlberger.
Personally, I didn't hear the police chief or the prosecutor say any such thing. Yes, they said they found it, but that's it. They never said they thought it belonged to the suspect or to someone who happened to be in the area they just wanted to question, or even where they found it. How do we know that the NBC source is somebody credible and not just somebody reading it in the tea leaves? Anyway, that's enough funny business for one episode. What I'd like to do in the next episode is delve into what evidence we actually do have and we do know from credible sources, and then have a dig around the internet to see what we can verify, or as the police would call it, corroborate. It's this practice of corroborating evidence that makes it less circumstantial and more credible because it's supported by other facts. And it's this practice that I'd like to help others refine so that they know that they're getting credible information. So tune in to the next episode where we begin this little process of verifying information that we've been given by the media.